Welcome to the Golf Report podcast. My name is Gavin. I'm going to give you my rankings for team, player, coach of the year, national championship prediction, and player of the year predictions for Division One men's golf for the 2024-2025 season. We've had a few tournaments so far, so these rankings are going to be based off the tournaments that have gone on so far. We had the Sahali players at Sahali Country Club in Washington, where Arizona State picked up an 11-stroke victory over Florida. Arizona finished third, Pepperdine fourth, Duke fifth, and Oklahoma State sixth. We had the Folds of Honors Collegiate, where Alabama picked up a 7-stroke victory over Illinois, with Texas finishing third, Michigan State fourth, Notre Dame fifth, Florida State sixth, Ohio State seventh, Kansas eighth, Kentucky ninth, and Kansas 10th. At the Visit Knoxville, we had LSU picking up a 2-stroke victory over Ole Miss, with Tennessee finishing tied for third with South Carolina, and Mississippi State getting fifth. At the Inverness Intercollegiate in Toledo, Ohio, at the Inverness Club, we had the Virginia Cavaliers picking up the victory over the defending national champion Auburn Tigers, winning by 4 strokes as a team. Oklahoma Sooners tying for third with Vanderbilt, Texas Tech getting fifth, and SMU getting sixth. I'm going to give you my rankings after these big tournaments that we've had for the Sahali players, the Visit Knoxville, the Inverness Intercollegiate, and the Folds of Honors. At number 1, I have Arizona State, led by Preston Summerhays and Jose Le Ballester. Arizona State got an 11-stroke victory as a team over Florida at the Sahali players. They just took the victory right from the get-go. After the first round, they had a 2-stroke victory, and they just continued and increased their lead. An 11-stroke victory that was a very impressive and opening statement from Arizona State. Preston Summerhays and Jose Le Ballester both tying for second, 1 stroke off Aiden Croft of Oregon, who got the individual victory at the Sahali players. They're the 2 senior leaders, Jose Le and Preston Summerhays, for Arizona State. They're really going to be relied on, and I think it was a great opening tournament for Arizona State, and a tournament where they made an opening statement, 11-stroke of victory over teams like, Florida and Duke and Arizona and Pepperdine. Really makes a statement to show that, Arizona State are national contenders, and, they can contend for the national championship and beat teams, like a North Carolina, like a Texas A&M, like an Oklahoma State, Pepperdine, Arizona. So, and we also saw for them, it's very good to see that, Connor Williams tied for 6th, got a top 10 victory and beat some of the best players in college golf. So really, Arizona State making an opening statement, getting 11-stroke of victory at the Sahali players. They're led by Preston Summerhays and Jose Le Ballester, who won the U.S. Amateur this summer, and they're going to rely on them, and they made a great opening statement, finishing tied for second individually. So I see great things for Arizona State this year, and I have them in number 1, getting 11-stroke victory and making an opening statement at the Sahali Players Championship. At number 2, I have Virginia, who got a 4-stroke victory as a team at the Inverness Intercollegiate, getting the 4-stroke victory over the defending national champion Auburn Tigers. Very impressive final round for them. 6 under par, the best final round by a stroke at the Inverness Intercollegiate. Really impressive victory for Virginia. Coming back, shooting 6 under par and beating the Auburn Tigers. Shows a lot for them. I really like, they're led by Ben James, a junior from Connecticut, and they also have Brian Lee, who tied for 7th individually. Ben James got shot 5 under par with a 3 under par final round, 68, 68, 66. He tied for 3rd individually, 4 strokes off the individual champion, who's Jackson Koivun from Auburn. Really impressive from Virginia. I see a lot from Virginia this year. I really like Ben James. He's playing on the PGA Tour this week in California. I really like their team. They have Ben James, Brian Lee, who I mentioned, who got a top 10, and I also like Devin Patel. Devin necessarily didn't have a good tournament. He shot 12 over par individually, and he got T66. So not a very good tournament from Devin Patel, but I see a lot more from him. And, I really like their top 3, Devin Patel, Brian Lee, Ben James. So I see a lot from Virginia, Paul Chang, T23rd, another player, Josh for them, played very well. Got a top 20 finish. So, very impressive victory for them, beating the defending national champions. Coming back, shooting the best round, final round, shooting 6 under par, getting a 4-stroke victory over a very good field, at the Inverness Club, as we put Virginia at number 2. So I have Virginia at number 2. At number 3, I have Auburn, the defending national champions from last year. They did lose, J.M. Butler, but I really like Jackson Koivun. He shot 9 under par right from the get-go, shot 63, 6 under par, 65 and rounded 2, and then 70, so 1 over par. Uh, really impressive, opening tournament from Jackson Koivun, getting the individual victory. Shows a lot and stakes him, as potentially the best player in college, Division I men's college golf. Great tournament for them. I really like, Brendan Valdez for Auburn. I have him at number 3. I think that, had they have gotten the victory, they could even been, number 1 or number 2. But losing the victory for me, shows that they are vulnerable, that, they need to clean up certain things, like Brendan Valdez tied for 18th. I would like to see a little bit more from Brendan Valdez, play, a little bit better. He did shoot, 1 under par in his second round, but starting out the tournament, with the 3 over par, there's a little bit of room to, be left from there. So, I have Auburn at number 3, coming into the season, as the defending champions. I had them at number 1, but I'm at number 3, losing their lead, shooting 6 over par, one of the higher scores in the final round at the Inverness Club intercollegiate. Just shows that they are vulnerable, that, they do have some really good players. Brendan Valdez, I'm sure he'll turn it around and have, be up there in the leaderboards. Jackson Koivun, is potentially, the best player in college golf. And so, just losing the lead to Virginia and, finishing second has me put them at 3. Whereas, if they would have won, I would have put them at number, 1 and 2. But, Auburn, they have a very good team. They really just lost J.M. Butler last year. So I see, potentially, another very good season for the Auburn Tigers. So I have Auburn at number 3. At number 4, I have Alabama, a very surprising team for me, putting into number 4 necessarily. Didn't have them this high going into the preseason rankings, but Alabama, a really impressive team victory at the Fulton of Honors Collegiate in Michigan. They shot 12 under par as a team, won by 7 strokes over Illinois, and beat other teams like Texas, Notre Dame, Michigan State, and Florida State. Very impressive victory from them. They shot 9 under par as a team in the first round. Had a very strong opening round, opened up with, a huge lead, and it just shows that, they're a team that, we should be paying attention to. They have a very good team. They did lose Nick Dunlap, last year. Obviously, he won on the PGA Tour and, went to the PGA. Now is obviously on the PGA Tour, but they opened up, they had like an 11-stroke lead, after the first round. So, and they won by 7 strokes. Dominic Clemons got the individual victory. So, very surprising victory for them. Going into this tournament, I picked, Illinois to win. I also like Texas going into this tournament, Notre Dame, but a very impressive, and strong victory for Alabama, getting the team victory, and then Dominic Clemons, getting the individual victory. Also Jack Mitchell, he shot 7 under the first round. He didn't have a good second round, shot 6 over par, but Jonathan Grizz also got a top 10. So Alabama's definitely, a top team, can get 10 with your, Illinois, your Arizona State, your Oklahomas, your Virginias, all these top teams. Alabama's a team that we really should, be paying attention to this year. And it was a statement to college golf that, Alabama is a top team and that they can compete with some of the, best in college golf. So, really an eye opener for me, but I really liked what I saw out of Alabama, watching the tournament. So I have Alabama at number 4, very, impressive opening tournament for Alabama, and a team that we should watch out for as the season goes on. At number 5, I have LSU. They took the victory by 2 strokes over Ole Miss at the Visit Knoxville in Tennessee, hosted by, Tennessee. I really liked what I saw from LSU. They had a super impressive first two rounds of the tournament. They shot 23 under par as a team. Algot Kleen, their senior, got the individual victory. So LSU, I necessarily, like Alabama, didn't have them as a top team going into the season, but I was super impressed with what I saw from them. The scores that they shot, had the individual victory from Algot Kleen, shooting 23 under par. The scores were really, high. For the final round at the Visit Knoxville. They shot even par. There's only one other even par out of Mississippi State for the entire tournament of teams. The other scores for teams in round three were all over par. So I really was very impressed by LSU. They shot 23 under or even two rounds because they just shot even par. Round three, they shooting 23 under, getting the individual victory from Algot Kleen. He also had Matthew Dodberry got a top 10. So surprising team for me, but another team like Alabama that we should look out for because shooting 23 under par makes a statement. Just like Alabama did, makes a statement that LSU is a team. They're here to compete with the best in college golf, and they can be a contender for a national championship when we get into May. But obviously, we're just in the fall, and so right now, I have LSU as my number 5 team. A very impressive and strong performance for them at the Visit Knoxville Intercollegiate. At number 6, I have Florida. They are they had a very good performance at the Sahali Players. Florida, lost by 11 strokes to Arizona State, but you can't, put anything against them. Arizona State just had a very strong tournament, and I really like, other than their first round, they shot 300 their first round, but I really like what they did. Besides the first round, they shot 283, 285, 300 par their final round. I really like how they turned it around after the first round. They are led by Ian Gilligan, who won the Western Amateur. And I really like Ian Gilligan. He's going to be a leader for them. They're also adding in a player like, Joshua Bai, last year's, U.S. junior runner-up in January, finishing second at the Sahali Players for me with Florida. Very impressive. There were teams like Oklahoma State, Oregon, Duke. I really like what I saw out of Florida, Jack Turner making, a statement that he's going to be a huge contributor for the Florida Gators. He got a top 5 finish, tied for 4th. Ian Gilligan, T8, shot 300 par his final round. And also adding in, Bai for them. I think, Joshua Bai, he's going to be enrolling in January. So I really like, and I see a lot for the Florida Gators. So very impressive for them, turning it around after shooting a 300 the first round at the Sahali Players really shows a lot and shows that they are, a team that can turn it around if they're not playing well. And so I really like their team. They have Ian Gilligan, Jack Turner and Parker Bell, and they also have Luke Potter. They also got some transfers. They're adding in Joshua Bai. He's enrolling in January. So I really think that Florida, led by Ian Gilligan, their senior, is a strong team, and they had a very good performance, finishing second at the Sahali Players. So I really like Florida, and I have them as my number 6 team. At number 7, I have Illinois. They finished second as a team by 7 strokes to Alabama at the Folds of Honors Collegiate. Really like Illinois. I had them picked to win this tournament, but it was a surprise victory for me, at least, with Alabama winning. I really like, Jackson Buchanan. He finished 3rd. Very good performance from him. He shot very impressive 500 par final round at the Folds of Honors. Also, Max Herndon, very good player. He's going to be a huge part of Illinois and a huge contributor for them. Very good performance to them. I really like what they're doing. I really like, Jackson Buchanan, and I like Herndon. You can't put anything against them. Alabama just went out there and played a super impressive tournament. And so, so I think they're, really set up, to have a good team. They played very well this first tournament. Returning Jackson Buchanan, he's going to be a huge leader for them. Harrington is going to be also a huge contributor for them. I also like what I saw out of Voice, So I think that, you can't put anything against them. Alabama just played a very good tournament. Ethan Wilson also had a top 20 finish. So I really like Illinois, and I think I see great things from them going into the season. And so, second place finish at the Fulton Honors Collegiate for them was a very good was a very good tournament for them. So I have Illinois as my number 7 team. At number 8, I have Oklahoma. Uh, um, Drew Goodman's going to be a leader for them. I like what I see out of Oklahoma. I think that, we're going to see a lot from them. And, they played well at the Inverness Intercollegiate. They tied for third as a team. I, think that Drew Goodman is going to be a leader for them. He tied for 10th place. They also had some top 20s. Ryder Cowan, top 20, he finished tied for 14th. And Chase Asumi from Oklahoma is also top 20. He finished T18. So, I really like Drew Goodman. He's going to be a leader for Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma had a very good tournament for them. They necessarily didn't have a great first round. They shot 281. So they put themselves, 10 strokes behind after the first round behind Auburn. But I really like how they played. Round 2, they shot 273, then they shot 277. Drew Goodman's obviously one of the best players in college golf. And so I think that, Oklahoma has the potential to have a good team, be a team that can make it to match play. So, I also like, they had Chase Summy and, Ryder Cowan, also like, Stephen Campbell Jr. I think that, he's a player who he can, play good for them. Necessarily he wasn't, at this tournament, but they could even get Stephen Campbell Jr., who I like. But I like, what I saw out of Oklahoma. They, regrouped after, maybe not an amazing first round at the Inverness Intercollegiate, shooting 281, and then they regrouped, shooting 8 strokes better and then shooting 277. So, if they can also add in, Stephen Campbell Jr. into their lineup, with Drew Goodman, Ryder Cowan, Jay Summy, they can add in Stephen Campbell. I really like Oklahoma, and I think they could be a team that definitely has the potential and maybe to even make it to match play. So I like Oklahoma, and I have Oklahoma as my number 8 team. At number 9, we have Texas. Texas finished third at the Fulton Honors Fulton Honors Collegiate, shooting 3 over par. They are obviously led by Tommy Morrison, who had the runner-up at Texas. Christian Moss also had a top 10 finish. He shot 4 under par. He finished at 6th. I think that Tommy Morrison's going to be a huge leader for them. He's going to have to, we're going to see with Texas, we're going to see how far can Tommy Morrison, lead the Longhorns. Because, he has the potential to be, and he is one of the best players in college golf. I think that, we saw it out of him. He had a huge summer. He, advanced to the round of 16 at the British Amateur. Then he won the European Amateur, and he made the cut at Royal Troon. Then he missed match play at the Western Amateur, but I really like Texas. And, they added Luke Potter from Arizona State. They had a very good tournament. They finished third. Maybe I would have expected a little bit more out of them at the Fulton Honors Collegiate, but Tommy Morrison's obviously going to be a leader from them. I think that certain things that I would like to see from Texas is I would like to see Luke Potter from Arizona State play a little bit better. He only shot 9 over par. He got 34th, so Luke Potter plays better. I see a lot for Texas. Tommy Morrison's obviously going to be a leader for them. I like also junior Christian Moss, who played well, and so I see potential good things from Texas, but they're going to go as far as but they're going to only go so far as Tommy Morrison could bring them. But I really like their 3 players. Luke Potter, Christian Moss, Tommy Morrison. Obviously had an amazing summer and runner-up finished individually at the Folds of Honor. So 3rd place finish for Texas, and I have Texas as my number 9 team. Number 10 team, I have Florida State. For me, it just wasn't, I had, Florida State obviously as my number 2 team coming into the season behind Auburn. They went to the national championship last year. They just did not have, very good performance for me at the Folds of Honors. They finished 6th as a team, shooting 20 over par. Really just wasn't super impressed with Florida State. They finished below Notre Dame and Michigan State. Um, and other teams, Texas, Illinois, Alabama. I wasn't super impressed with what I saw from Florida State. I think that, for they obviously have, the best player in college golf in Luke Clanton, who we've seen, at the top of leaderboards. They lost Frederick Kitterjup, they lost Cole Anderson. They're adding in a player from Wake Forest. For me, it's really going to be, who can step up and, who can play well for the Seminoles when, Luke Clanton's not there. Luke Clanton is playing on the PGA Tour this week. He was not at the Folds of Honors. And, they only had, one top 20 finish for the Florida State Seminoles. Carson Brewer finished tied for 19th. You also had Michael Mays finished tied for 23rd. You had Jack Bingham finished T26. You had Gary Albright finished tied for 30th. And so I just generally wasn't super impressed. Tyler Weaver himself, he shot 11 over par. He's going to be certainly one that the Seminoles are going to rely on. He's projected to be he could even be their number 2 player behind Luke Land. So it's really, for me, they just barely, lost out to Auburn last year. They had an amazing run to the national championship, fell just a little bit short. But for me, it's really going to be, how all in, on college golf and with the Seminoles is Luke Clanton. It does sound like he's going to be all in, but, right now they didn't have him. I see him playing better than, what they finished, at the, Folds of Honor. So I'm going to, need to see more out of players like, Tyler Weaver and others, who can, provide a lot for Florida State. And, Florida State's going to rely a lot on Tyler Weaver. Shot 11 over par in his second round. And so I see a lot more for, Tyler Weaver and others. So I wasn't super impressed. That's why Florida State's lower on my rankings. Wasn't super impressed with how they played. They didn't play very well, but I see them as a team that, when they get Luke Clanton back in the lineup, they get him playing in some tournaments. I think that they'll, step it up and, play better than their sixth place finish. But for me, the performance just wasn't that strong for me with them. So I'm as my number 10 team in the rankings so far, but I think they can go up. And once they get, Luke Clanton back, I see them playing a lot better golf as the season goes on. And even when we get into the spring, but we'll have to see, with Luke Clanton, what happens with him and, potential PGA Tour move. At number 11, I have Ole Miss, who finished second place as a team at the Visit Knoxville. At number 12, I have a Vanderbilt, who just did not, to me, didn't really have a super, amazing performance. Gordon Sargent didn't play amazing at the Inverness Intercollegiate. They did shoot 5 under par as a team, but I just have, Vanderbilt. They lost so much. They were, set up to win it last year, and they lost a lot of talent. And so, we'll see how things go. They have Jackson Van Paris. They have Gordon Sargent. They did shoot 5 under par as a team in the final round of the Inverness Intercollegiate. They tied for third with Oklahoma. So, we'll see how things go, but wasn't, hugely impressed with certain players. Gordon Sargent didn't play amazing and others. So, and they're going to, rely a lot on Jackson Van Paris and, Gordon Sargent because they did lose a lot of talent. And so, they departed, Cole Sherwood, William Mall, and Matthew Rydell. So they lost a ton of, talent, a ton of leadership. And so Jackson Van Paris and, Gordon Sargent are going to be certainly leaders for them. Wells Williams is, another one that they're going to, rely on. But I wasn't, super impressed with the, the Vanderbilt at the Inverness Intercollegiate. Jackson Van Paris obviously, got 6th place, tied for 7th from John Broderick. And, but things like that, once Gordon Sargent, I'm sure he'll start playing better. He did shoot 2 under par in the final round of the Inverness Intercollegiate. He didn't have a good first round, shot 3 over par, but, I see a lot more for Gordon Sargent. I expect, a very good season from Jackson Van Paris. So wasn't super impressed with Vanderbilt, but, I see them moving up my rankings and, playing some better golf and being up there at the leaderboard. But we'll have to see with Vanderbilt because they did lose a ton of talent. They were set up to win last year, and we'll also see, well, just like others, Gordon Sargent with the potential move to the PGA Tour or not. But I think he came back to Vanderbilt and, wants to give it one more shot, for Vanderbilt and, potentially winning national championship because they were they were upset and, they were, favorites to, potentially win it last year. So, not the performance I was expecting out of Vanderbilt, but I really like how they performed in their final round. And, I've seen but better golf and better finishes for Vanderbilt as the season goes on. So I'm at number 12. At number 13, Texas Tech. Number 14, Notre Dame. Number 15, Arizona. Number 16, Duke. Number 17, Tennessee. Number 18, team that I really like as a surprise this year is Pepperdine. They played well at the Sahali Players. They finished fourth place. I really like Mahant Chiraviri. So I really like, what Pepperdine as a surprise team this year. They played well. They didn't have a good final round at the solid Holly Players, shooting 303. Mahant Chiraviri did not have a good round. He shot 5 over par, but they're definitely a team that they have Nathan Hahn also. They have Christopher Koivun. So I really see good potential for them to be a sleeper team for Pepperdine. But it's going to depend upon Mahant Chiraviri and how he performs, because he did not necessarily have a good final round. But I potentially could see him as a team to watch out for. At number 19, I have Iowa State. I also like Iowa State. Luke Gachewski is a player to look out for. At number 20, Oklahoma State. Number 21, Oregon. Number 22, I really like UCLA. They're led by senior Omar Morales from Mexico. Really like UCLA and, them as a team to watch out for as the season goes on. Number 23, North Carolina. Again, a team where I just was not, they just really just did not have a good performance. North Carolina, they're led by David Ford and Maxwell Ford. David Ford had a good tournament for himself, pretty solid tournament. Tied for eighth, top 10 finish from him. He had a very good second round, shot 3 under par. Maybe not necessarily an amazing start, 2 over par first round and 1 over par final round. North Carolina just generally, they just did not have a very good tournament. They finished as a team tied for ninth in the Sahali Players. And so I wasn't, super impressed with what I saw out of North Carolina. But I think that, they're a team that they could either, they're going to rely a lot on, David Ford and Maxwell Ford, and they're going to, have to perform well for them. Just not a good performance from North Carolina at the Sahali Players. The question for them is really going to be who's, going to be the 3 through 5 after, David Ford and Maxwell Ford. They have Keaton Vo, Ethan Pascal, Hampton Roberts, and even Grant Rosich played as an individual, and they didn't have any top 20s outside of them. I think that, North Carolina is going to be a team that's going to take a step back. They were, a national championship contender and, one of the favorites to win it last year, but they lost, so much talent. They departed, Austin Greaser, Dylan Minetti, and Peter Fountain. They're still led by David Ford and Maxwell Ford. And, David Ford, is, been plagued by a hip injury lately. But, he had a top 10. So I see great things from, David Ford and even Maxwell Ford to, play better and to finish, more at the, top of, the leaderboards, going forward into tournaments. But, it's not a great tournament. I see them, as one of the teams that's going to take a step back. Last year they had so much talent, with Greaser, Peter Fountain, Dylan Minetti, the 2 Ford brothers. So they had a, really, great top 5 team last year. They were really set up to win it last year, and it was really a disappointment that they weren't able to get it done last year or get further in match play in the national championship. So just didn't really see much from North Carolina. Not a great performance from them, finishing tied for ninth. And the question is going to be really their 3 through 5. Who are going to be their contributors outside of David Ford and Maxwell Ford. So for right now, until I can see anything else, I have North Carolina at 23. At 24, I have Stanford. 25, South Carolina. Getting into my player rankings, number 1, I have Luke Clanton from Florida State. I just think that he's, the best player in college golf. All right, number 1, I have Jackson Koivun from Auburn. He had a very good individual performance and got the victory at the Inverness Club, at the Inverness Intercollegiate. Shot, as we mentioned, he shot, 63, 65, 70. So to open up, with a 63 and a 65, he really staked his dominance on college golf and showed that he is the best player out there, and others are going to have to go take it from him. He won, the Fred Haskins Award last year, and so, I see great things, and I think Jackson Koivun right now is the best player in college golf, so I'm as number one. My apologies for the mistake. At number two, I have Luke Clanton from from Florida State. I think that, you know, um, the question with Luke Clanton, he didn't play at the Folds of Honors. He's playing on the PGA Tour. I think that question's going to really be, as I mentioned before, is he going to be all in on college golf, winning that national championship, which I think he is, or is there going to be a potential move to the PGA Tour? But for right now, I am as number two. I just need to see some results from him in college golf and how he performs in college golf. But we've seen him, at the top of the leaderboard on the PGA Tour. And so, he shot 200 par today at on the PGA Tour in Napa Valley. And so, until I see everything, but I was super impressed, with what I saw out of Jackson Koivun. Very, great performance from him at the Inverness Intercollegiate. So right now I have Luke Clanton at number two. Number three, Jose Le Ballester from Arizona State. He won the U.S. Amateur this year. I have him as the number three player, tied for second individually at the Sahali Players. And so I really like what I saw out of him. I think that he kept the momentum for winning the U.S. Amateur, had a very good opening tournament at the Sahali Players, and I see great things as one of the leaders for Arizona State. At number four, I really like Ben James. He's playing on the PGA Tour this week. Had a good performance. Tied for third at the Inverness Intercollegiate. Had a very solid tournament, shooting 68, 68, 66. Really impressed by his 300 par round. I see great things from him. Four birdies, one bogey. I think that he's, one of the top players in college golf. He's a player to look out for. And he had a very good tournament, tied for third. And so I see great things. He's going to be a leader for Virginia. I see, great things for Virginia this season. I really like him as a team. And so Ben James is number four. Number five, I have Drew Goodman. Number six, Preston Summerhays. Number seven, Tommy Morrison, who got runner-up at the Folds of Honors. Number eight, Jackson Buchanan from Illinois. Number nine, Algot Kleen from LSU, who got a very good four-stroke victory at the Visit Knoxville. Number 10, Dominic Clemons from Alabama. He got the individual victory at the Folds of Honors, beating, Tommy Morrison by a stroke. That's was super impressive, super eye-opening. He wasn't a player who I even had in my top 20 going into the season, but getting the victory over players like Jackson Buchanan and Tommy Morrison and others, really showed that could this be a fluke? Maybe, but he picked up a one-stroke victory over Tommy Morrison, and he beat Jackson Buchanan, who finished second. Alabama, as I said, they're a surprising team. Dominic Clemons was a surprising individual victory, but maybe, Clemons and maybe Alabama as a team, should be ones that we should look out for. So, necessarily didn't have Dominic Clemons in my top 20 coming into the season, but getting the individual victory, over some of the best in college golf, Tommy Morrison, who I have at number seven, and Jackson Buchanan at number eight, really shows that, Clemons can be one of the best in college golf right now. So, I have him at number 10. At number 11, I have Tiger Christensen from Arizona. Number 12, Jackson Van Paris from Vanderbilt. Number 13, Aiden Kraft, Oregon, another player who necessarily didn't have, but I have to put him in my top 20, getting the individual victory over players at the Sahali Players, over players, like Preston Summerhays and Jose Le Ballester and others, Ian Gilligan. So, getting the individual victory there and beating some top players, really had, was an eye opener for me and had me put Aiden Kraft at number 13. At number 14, Ian Gilligan. Number 15, Gordon Sargent. Not a great performance from Gordon Sargent. He had a good final round, but I expect more out of Gordon Sargent. I think we'll see more from him as the season goes on. But the question for him, remains, potential PGA Tour move or not. I think he's all in. Giving it one more shot with Vanderbilt, but wasn't super impressed what I saw out of him. But I expect some better results from him, and I think he can move up. But so far, he was a player who went down in my rankings a lot. Number 16, Jacob Moldeski from Notre Dame, finishing fourth individually at the Folds of Honors. Number 17, Max Harridan, tied for ninth. They got a top 10, ninth place at the Folds of Honors. Number 18, David Ford. Just, for me, David Ford, he's a player. I think he's plagued by the fact that, North Carolina, they had so much talent last year. They had, they were set up to win it last year. And so I think our rankings could be a little bit skewed. He had a top 10 finish at the Sahali players. And so, necessarily I probably should have David Ford higher, but I just think that other players, played well and, impressed me more. And maybe I do have high expectations for David Ford, but um, I see a lot from him, going forward. And I think he is plagued by the fact that North Carolina, lost so much talent, has a lot of question marks, is a team that probably is going to take a step back this year. And so necessarily I probably should have David Ford more, but higher than what I do, but number 18 right now for him. Number 19, a player who I like and who look out for is Omar Morales from UCLA. Number 20, Brian Lee had a very good performance at the Inverness Intercollegiate. Finished tied for 7th, had a top 10 finish. Shot a 64 in round 2. So, he's going to be one of the leaders, with Ben James and with Devin Patel for Virginia. And I really like what Virginia did, getting the victory over the defending national champion Auburn. So I have Brian Lee at number 20. To recap my top, let's go my top 10. We have Jackson Koivun, Luke Clanton, Jose Le Ballester, Ben James, number 4, Drew Goodman, 5, 6, Preston Summerhays, 7, Tommy Morrison, 8, Jackson Buchanan, Algot Kleen, number 9, and Dominic Clemons, number 10. Getting into my national championship pick, I'm going to go with Arizona State at the moment. They have a lot of question marks, outside of their top. They're led by Preston Summerhays, and they're led by Jose Le Ballester. But I think I was super impressed. They got 11th stroke of victory. I think that, for me, it showed that, they have, a good team. Connor Williams, T6, they even had they had Per Warinsky, who, tied for 13th. They had Nicholas, Prieto, individual who finished, top 20. And so they're really going to, go as far as Preston Summerhays and Jose Le Ballester, take them. But I think that, I was super impressed with what I saw from them in the first tournament. I think they have high potential. Matt Thurman is a great coach. I have Matt Thurman as my coach of the year. I think that, his team, they did lose a lot of talent. They lost a lot of players. Luke Potter went to Texas. They lost, Ricks Johnston. They lost a lot of talent, but I think that, they added in, some. So, I'm picking Arizona State necessarily. Maybe that might be, getting in the moment too much. They had a great performance in their opening tournament for Preston Summerhays and, Jose Le Ballester. They did lose a lot. They lost Ricks Johnson, Wendy Ding, Luke Potter transferred to Texas, as I mentioned. And so, the question is really going to be that, 3 through 5 from them. If those players can play well, Preston Summerhays and Jose Le Ballester can stake themselves, as the top in college golf, they can take Arizona State very far. And so, it's all really going to depend upon 3 through 5. They had some other players, play well. Connor Williams played well. And so, they took a lot of hits, after the season. I think, I see a lot from Arizona State. And so far, other teams I necessarily didn't see a lot from, your Florida State, didn't see a lot from Auburn. They did not have a good final round. And so, Illinois didn't get the victory. So right now, I have to go with Arizona State. I like, Matt Thurman, and I think that, they had the best performance so far, and I got to pick Arizona State. But obviously, it's just the fall. We have a long way to go until regionals, and then, obviously the national championship in May. So, things will change and things will fluctuate. Certain teams like, we'll see if, Luke Clanton gets into some tournaments for Florida State. We'll see if Auburn can rebound. We'll see if, a team like Alabama, if they're for real, but for right now, I have to pick Arizona State and Matt Thurman as my national championship pick and my coach of the year. For my freshman of the year, I'm going to go with Billy Davis. He has a sister, Anna Davis. He's going to be freshman at Auburn. I expect, great things from Billy Davis. He's played on the PGA Tour for, so far. I see a lot from him. I think he's going to be freshman of the year. I see, him playing well this year, and having his sister also being comfortable there at Auburn, and so he's the most likely candidate. He was the hot shot recruit. He has a lot of work to do, physically, but I really like, Billy Davis, having his sister, she won, um, just played well recently. She won regionals last year. She's obviously the Augusta National Women's Amateur Champion. And so I really like Billy Davis. He has experience. He's gotten to play on the PGA Tour. And so I really like him as my pick for freshman of the year. And my player of the year at the moment is Luke Clanton. It's just going to depend upon I'm picking Luke Clanton over Jackson Koivun. I just think, we've seen a lot from, Luke Clanton, him, playing well on the PGA Tour so far. It's really going to depend, upon, how much, how many tournaments is he going to play in versus the PGA Tour? Is he going to continue that momentum, bringing Florida State from the national championship last year? Is he going to take the, momentum from his great, summer and so, I really like, Luke Clanton is my player of the year. It's really close between him, Jackson Koivun. And so I really like Luke Clanton right now. Could also throw in like a Jose Le Ballester to be player of the year. But as of right now, I have to go with Luke Clanton. But I was super impressed. And it's very close, with Jackson Koivun and others. And so, yeah. Some players, some teams to look out for, maybe that might not be at the top. I really like Stanford. I like their potential. Adding some players like TK, getting a transfer from, getting a transfer from Harvard. I really like, Stanford being a team that, you know, could maybe surprise some. They got Harvard transfer Brian Ma, as I mentioned. They got TK, he won an Asian Tour event at, 15 years old. And so, I think Stanford, they did lose a lot. They lost, Michael Thorne Bjornsson. They lost Carl Phillips. They lost Barkley Brown. But I think they're bringing in you know, some great players, bringing in Brian Ball, getting TK. They need to get more out of sophomores, Ethan Gao and others. So, I think I like who they're bringing in. They need to get more out of some other players, like Ethan Gao. And so Stanford's a team that, should look out for. As I mentioned, Pepperdine could be a team to look out for, like UCLA as a team to look out for. And like also, Iowa State as a team to look out for this year led, Luka Chesky, played in Korn Ferry tournament. I believe his brother won the U.S. Junior. So, Iowa State is definitely a team to look out for potentially. And also like, Pepperdine.